Hey, Chris Baker here with what I'm hoping you'll find is the most in-depth look at the Easter eggs for PlayStation and Marvel's new fighting game that I think is pronounced Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Let's get right to it with the intro here. One thing that really impresses me about this game is that Marvel is allowing Arc System Works to do their own thing and do their own anime style like they have with Dragon Ball and other games in the past. And you may not realize it, but they are saying that right here with this intro. If you're penciling a Marvel comic, this is the kind of sheet that you're penciling it on. And right now, we're literally seeing Arc System Works draw their own style onto official Marvel stationery. I'm guessing these are the actual signatures of the artists who drew these. Oddly poetic to start, actually. And then the action starts. You already can see for yourself it looks amazing. I don't need to dive into that, but I am going to dive into the backgrounds. All the Easter eggs and stuff you probably didn't see. We're going to look at that right now. Over at the left, you probably noticed Dazzler's Disco Show. Pretty easy reference to make there, but you probably didn't notice where she's playing. Kind of looks like Radio City Music Hall, but it's clearly labeled as the Gym Theater, which somehow in games has gotten a huge upgrade over what it is in the comics. In the comics, it's just this really run-down movie theater. It was the headquarters for Power Man and Iron Fist for a long time. But I guess like somebody bought it in the years since then, and just as Times Square saw a bit of a revolution, so did the Gym Theater. That makes sense. Of course, it really got an upgrade, you might remember, in Marvel's Spider-Man. It was basically a huge opera house there. And while we're over here to the left, we can look at this pole and see that it has some decorations on it, shall we say. We're at the corner of 42nd Street and Avengers Park Avenue. Makes sense the Avengers would have their own park. They're very well loved, as you can see from these Captain America shields kind of decorating the pole. But also there's some not so nice things that people are posting there about Spider-Man. These all say never. There's also some Lockjaw stickers. And down at the bottom it says, "No more mutants," the infamous words of the Scarlet Witch that led into the House of M storyline. I don't think she's putting that there. I think it's just meant as a fun reference, and it is something that an anti-mutant person might actually say. There's a license plate here on this taxi. Often a great place for Easter eggs, but here it looks like it's some kind of barcode. And over to the right, there's another car with a barcode for a license plate. I wonder if you can scan those in some way, and there is another Easter egg. It's too low res for me to tell. And if you look at the top of the taxi, it actually says at least 3 different things. First, it says Ice and Shadow with some words I can't make out on top of it. Iceman and Shadowcat, maybe? I'm not sure. If you know, tell me. Next, you can only make out the word night with some Dazzler imagery, so maybe like opening night or something like that, but it's a Dazzler thing. And then finally, there's Archon the Musical. Archon's a pretty obscure Avengers character who doesn't show up much, basically a barbarian Conan type. As we turn our gaze to the center background, you start to see some real Marvel landmarks. Obviously, Avengers Tower is there, Oscorp, Fisk Tower, Roxxon. There's what appears to be some sort of news ticker, and it says, Gigantos neutralized. Keep that in mind for later. Also news related, we see J. Jonah Jameson several places, and a news reporter who I'm guessing is Betty Brant. Or just some random brunette, who knows. And then there's this sign that right now says Auntie's Wheat Cakes, which of course is a reference to Aunt May's wonderful wheat cake recipe that was also referenced in Marvel's Spider-Man and I believe some of the other games too. Let's just stay right here in this spot because this thing changes. It goes then to standing beside you. I won't pretend I know if that's a Marvel reference. In fact, I'm not sure what it's referencing, period. After some random animations here, we see Lucky Dog Pizza, which Hawkeye fans remember, the pizza dog. And it's a little hard to make out, but I'm pretty sure that's an ad for the Circle Q, which is Kamala Khan's favorite convenience store. And we get an even nicer view of the skyline when Captain America launches Iron Man into the sky. Very Marvel vs. Capcom there, by the way. Of course, we see the Fantastic Four's Baxter Building. And down, if you look a little farther below, you can see the Hellfire Club. And of course, that news ticker keeps on ticking, something about a Spider Menace. And look at this, we can even see the Chiron for J. Jonah Jameson here. It says Spider Menace, just like it says on the news ticker. And you see that FC in the lower right. J. Jonah Jameson is on the Fact Channel. You can also catch a glimpse of Fact Channel headquarters right here. And as Kamala wallops Iron Man, we can see the Janet Van Dyne store, I guess. She's a fashion designer. There's an ad for the shop across the street, too. This is one I'm throwing in after I recorded everything and noticed it. That's Mocha-Cola from the Superior Spider-Man number 4. I love that it's actually a reference to a reference, which is the old Marvel Comics logo. That's the same logo as Mocha-Cola. Over to the right, we see some presidential campaigning, I guess. Norman Osborn for president. Sounds ridiculous, huh? Yeah. Soon enough, the fight moves on to the aforementioned Avengers Park. And you may have noticed a coffee place in the first screen. You get a better view of it here, and it's definitely the Coffee Bean. Not to be confused with the real-life Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf chain. This is a place that originated in Amazing Spider-Man comics, and he's been going there since the 60s. And then there's the statue of the Avengers that obviously takes up the core scenery here. I feel like I've seen this before, but I just can't place it. It is the big three, if you will, of the Avengers in their original costumes. And something that's pretty easy to miss, look above, I'm pretty sure that's a helicarrier? A crashed helicarrier, maybe? Perhaps it plays into the narrative of the game, whatever that actually is. And somewhere around here, there's an Avengers Museum, because we see this banner for it. And the current exhibit is the Kree Skrull War, which of course was the first big Marvel Comics crossover event. Oh, by the way, look at Spidey. It's kind of like the Insomniac design, except the spider's black. Some other differences, of course, but that really stands out to me. And then we see Robbie Reyes' version of Ghost Rider, and he smacks Star-Lord real good. And these people over here could not be any less interested that a guy with a flaming skull for a head is hitting some dude in a really weird mask, and, you know, they just don't care. Their New York hot dogs are just that good. Here's a good look at Fogwell's gym, which is very instrumental to the origin of Daredevil. I love how run down it is, and look at the door. Specifically, the handprints. Even cooler if we get another view of this flyer. It says Face a Tiger, and it's the Mary Janes, which is Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy's band from the Spider-Gwen comics. Given what we've seen so far, it should come as no surprise that Nelson and Murdoch, the law firm of Daredevil, is right there. Even Mr. Murdoch himself, if you look close enough. The scales of justice are pretty cool there, but it is a bit extravagant for Nelson and Murdoch. They're just basically a plaque on a wall. Go in. I'm fascinated by this graffiti. I think it says, "Fear the Circle." Now, the Circle is a group I'll admit I'm not very familiar with, but apparently they are from Iron Man comics, and they have some ties to Arthurian legend. I wonder if that's a narrative tie to this game, or if maybe the Circle is a whole other thing that could also be a narrative tie to this game. And you may have noticed damage control is here. They of course show up whenever there's damage after a big superhero battle. And if you look at that tentacle there, it's a hint of what it is. And then as the battle progresses toward the air, we know exactly what it is. I love this because it's Shuma-Gorath. This is an obvious nod to the Marvel vs. Capcom series where Shuma-Gorath, for some reason, has appeared in almost every single one of them, dating back to Marvel Superheroes when he was one of, I think, 8 or 12 characters, something like that. They chose Shuma-Gorath. Obviously, this game is not going to have playable Shuma-Gorath, or as he's known now, Gargantos. You might recall that Gargantos was neutralized. Well, now you're seeing it. From there, of course, we've got Storm, we've got Hulkbuster, we've got Doombots, we've got a mysterious arena that kind of reminds me of the temple that Thanos built for Death, that we also saw in Marvel Superheroes, of course. And in the behind-the-scenes footage, we got dinosaurs. I'm thinking there's a Savage Land level. There's also this character that appears to be walking. Could there be like a mode where you're actually walking around? Or maybe it's just some random NPC in the background. Anyway, this has been so much fun to go through all these Easter eggs. Tell me your favorite, and tell me if I missed anything, because I probably did. If you like this type of video, you might also like my deep dive into the Easter eggs from Cosmic Invasion. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time, whenever that might be.